I'm starting with 2 pieces of round, soft copper wires. One of them is 18 gauge and the other is 20 gauge, slightly smaller. And these are both cut to 12 inches long. I've just straightened them out with my fingers. And I'm going to mark the middle of the wires, put them down on my measure, find my 6-inch mark, and make a little mark right there. I'm also going to go over 1/4 of an inch and make a mark. Go to the left of center, 1/4 of an inch, make a mark. Then I'll go for 3/4 of an inch, which is basically right here at the 1 square. And then I'll go 3/4 of an inch from center over here, from the last mark over here. So from the center, there's basically 1 inch and 1 inch, but there's a 1/4 inch mark to each side of center. Okay? I'm going to weave these 2 wires together using 28 gauge round weaving wire, and it is 4 feet long, but I've got it in the middle here. I'm going to start from the middle, so I'll work each side at 2 feet. My stone is about 20 millimeter round and about 3 millimeter thick, so it's pretty thin. And that's just a little over 1/4 inch all the way, half an inch all the way around. All right, this is a beautiful pink rhodochrosite. So I have my wires marked from the center. I'm going to use either a flat nose or a chain nose plier. In my case, I have a chain nose plier. I'm going to just brace against the center marks and use my finger and push the wires into a V bend of approximately 90 degrees. It can be a little bit over. Mine are a little bit over. And I'll just tap both sides of this wire, both sides of the corners, to make sure that I got a nice even bend. The 20 gauge will go inside and the 18 gauge will go outside. Whoop, I got those backwards. So it'll look just like that. You can turn it to where you can see your marks on the other side here. I'll start with the 18 gauge wire. And I'll just come and put my 28 gauge center at the bottom center of the 18 gauge, and I'll make single coils until I get to my first mark. Pull them all back. There's 13, 14, and 15, and that's pretty good. And I'll use the other half of my 28 gauge, and I'll make 15 single coils up this side. Go ahead and change my camera so you can see it a little better. Okay, so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to make 15. So there's 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 13, 14, 15. Okay, that's pretty good. And that should get me to each of these first marks on the other side. Let's get your wires all straight. Go ahead and pick up the 20 gauge, nest it in here. And right where the two of them meet, we're just going to do, you could weave, but I'm just going to do a coil over all of them till I get to here. You can count if you want to, or you can just do your coils. Making them tight, but not so tight that the wires, buckle up. Just keep them side by side. Just hold them right there on the coils. They're going to want to do this because they're round, and also because one is a little smaller than the other. The 20 gauge and the 18 will want to squirrel around a little bit, but you just keep them side by side as you work, and then pull your coils back. Make sure he doesn't slide out of the center, so you keep watch on that 20 gauge. After you get a little ways, 1/4 inch or so, I'm going to take my flat nose, my chain nose, and I'll just tap everything, lightly tap everything, push it all back, and then continue to make coils to your mark. Make sure your coils are set all the way back. Check where the center of the 20 gauge is here. Make sure it's seated. I'm going to go a couple more times, and then that should be good. I'm right on my mark there. And I'll tap everything down. Make sure to tap it down from the inside as well, because that's where your 20 gauge is, so that's where the smaller wire is. You don't need to kill it, just give it a nice even tap there. And then we'll repeat on this side. Make sure that the 20 gauge is sitting where it needs to be, beside the other wire there, and then just start your coils until you reach your mark out here. I think I might have gone to this outer mark. We'll see once I get there, I'll measure. They should be a total inch from here to the finish. to stop at this first mark and measure it. I have to go a little bit more. And I'll just come down here from the corner to the end. It should be 1 inch, and the same for here. Mine are 1 inch and a couple of wraps, so go to here, and that works out great. Just tap everything, push everything back, make sure it's all nice and flat. Okay, so that looks pretty good. Take your stone. We're going to bend the points back to the back of the stone. But before we do, I'm going to put a little piece of tape on my stone. I just went over on itself so that the sticky side is out. Help me hold the stone down on the table. And all I'm going to do is shape my wire around my stone. And even though I have it taped, I still want to hold my finger on it. So just make a nice curve so that you're crossing over at the top center. Hold all that. Take the opposite wire or the opposite pair. Just make a nice curve. And get them to where they're just crossing over the top center of the stone. When you let go, they should ride just there to the side. We want this to be a little bit smaller than the actual stone so that these sit on the face of the stone. So I'm just going to work these manually, a little bit smaller, keeping the crisscross center. Just continuing to work it a little bit smaller until it sits on the soft shoulder of my stone. That's about right. So when I look at it like this, these edges are literally at the edges of the stone or just slightly beyond them, but you don't want the stone to fall through there. That's kind of holding it down, okay? I want to bend the wires back so my coils are reaching just the top of the stone there. And then right here where the coils start to become double and this entire V, I want to bend to the back to make a little seat or the beginning of a seat. It's a little tough to bend because they're together. Just keep everything flat. It's better to be slightly, domed that way because that's going to sit over your rock. And then with a flat plier, you can do this one wire at a time, or you can try to do them both at a time. I like to put my fingers right here, kind of hold the frame, take the tip, and start to work it backwards. You want the frame to stay flat. And eventually you just want to flip this all the way over so that there's a little seat there for your stone. But let's go ahead and get it to a 90 degree. And then I like to start working this other one up with it. And then it's going to actually take the bend, right here. So once you get them both kind of up there, just gently start to work one side and then the other side right there at the base of the coil. Until these come back this way. Put a slight curve on it so that when you put your stone back down, just like that, it'll kind of put a backward pressure on it. So I'll pick my stone up. Just kind of want to put the bottom of it there like that. Flip it over this side. And then just use your fingers and manipulate the top wires. You can spread them a little bit more. Make sure the stone is nicely seated. Make sure these wires have kind of a, curve on them. The 18 is on the outside. And then if you need to, push these back a little bit more. But don't push them so far away that, you push the stone off. So it should just look like a little bare spot on the bottom of the stone. These two wires crisscross the top center here. And these sides are holding on to your stone. They're just over the top shoulders. It's a little squirrely. It's going to get a little squirrelier. You can use a plier to help you adjust these so that they're nicely on the side of the stone, on the top shoulder of the stone, I mean. Okay. These two coils up here should be kind of, I would say, at the temples of the stone, right? Just up here and up here, but not all the way up there. So I'll work one side at a time. Make sure your coils are laying where you need them to be. If you need to make one or two more, you can do that. I'm going to turn this over so you can see it. So my stone should be seated nicely right there. I might make this a little bit smaller to make sure that these two are on the soft shoulder of the stone there, so that when I hold it like this, it doesn't fall through. So it should be about like that. And that little nub down there should have the back of your stone. All right, so get that fairly even. Get your stone sitting in there with its pattern the way you want it. It's a little bit squirrely. And then when you're ready, start with these inside wires. We're just going to fold them back. Okay, so I'll try to do this so you can see it. You would probably be down here. I like to actually put my stone right back on top of that tape. It helps. And then, hold the face of the stone down. Make sure your crisscross is center. We'll work with the wire that's up top. Let me zoom in a little bit. And let me focus a little bit. Hopefully you can see that pretty all right. So pretty even on the sides. Just take the 18 gauge from here, and all I'm doing is curving it to the back of my stone. It's easier for me to show you from up here. Okay. You want to make sure that coil stays on the front shoulder of the stone, and just bring both wires down and over just like that. A little more than center, because this side you have to have room for this side. So once you get that first one, so it'll be a little easier, turn it upside down, And then to get it a little further, you can take one at a time or you can work them both, but just basically do a little jiggle. Don't pull your frame out of shape. And just get those two curves a little bit, more to the right of center. So if you follow the tip, you want to be to the right of that so you have room for this next one. Okay, so I'll turn it over. Check everything. See, it should just look like that. It's okay, it's a little bare spot, but you have wire up here so you can make coils. I go a little bit more actually. So you can do one wire at a time. It'll be a little easier on you. Hold this coil. And then just go back and forth and gently pulling with a little bit of a jiggle to scooch the wire over. And then we'll shape it some more here in a minute. Okay, so just like that. Work patiently. And then once you get that one side, this is the hardest part of the day. We'll do this side. So the 20 gauge is on the outside. So I'll start with the 18. Whoop, see, I just bent my whole frame off the stone. Make sure you stay on that corner. Like I just pulled myself all the way off. So I'll bend myself back on. It's okay. Put your finger right there and then just make a nice little turn. The 18 gauge is to the inside and then followed by the 20. Real easy. Just lay them down the back of the stone. Work them, so that they touch right here. They kind of part to either side of that little beak you made down on the bottom. Ooh, not too bad. And then just gently work these, make sure you're on the shoulders there. And that's it. You can use the weaving wire that's existing right here. Make a few additional stitches and then choose one over the other and stitch all 4 of them together as you pass them. So let me get my focus back out. Get a little closer for you. Okay. So it's still wobbly. You can put a spot of tape around the whole thing if you want to. I'm just going to hold it all. I'll continue with this one. Push it all back so it's nice and tight, but stay on that shoulder. And then just make coils to get yourself around that little edge. You don't have to. I'm just going to. You don't have to hold the stone in there if you don't want to. You can slip the stone out still, by the way, too. I'm just holding the stone in there for now because we're about to sew it together in the back. That's pretty good. It is still open over here, so if you wanted to just go around, I take the stone out so it'll be a little easier. Add a few more coils to get me over the shoulder. That's pretty good. And then I'll do the same with this opposite side. All right, that looks pretty good. I'm going to slip the stone back in here before I tie them together. Make sure the shoulders are still captured. I'm going to just make sure to tidy everything up. And that should look like that. So come back here. I'm going to position my two back wires so that they're just coming out evenly and nicely along the back there. And then I'm just going to stretch one of these 28 gauges down here and do some figure 8 stitches. Weave these two together a little bit more so they stay together at the shoulder blades there. And just leave this one up here for now. Okay, so take a long stretch down here. Get to where they're touching. Do a 360. Pass under. Do a 360 around that pair, pass under, do a 360 around this pair, whoop, pass under. They don't have to be, super tight. You can let your weave loosen up, as it widens up. But make sure that these two legs are kind of, sloped close over here at the back. Once you have a few stitches, let me do another 360 around this one. You can make a little bit of an adjustment. Just push these until they're nice. And then your stone is still a little wobbly, so don't freak out. Straighten it out a little bit, and you can do a little bit of a bend right there, just to make it match, this slope a little bit more. So just carefully in, and then right there, out, just like that. Make sure that nothing altered your frame. You can always come back here and do a little squeeze, get these guys back onto the soft shoulder of your stone. You can use your pliers to help keep you, the two wires nice and side by side, skirting the top edge of the stone, making sure the shape stays nice. That's good. So I'll just continue. Do 360. Pass under the pair. Do a 360 on this side. Pass under the pair. 360 this side. I'm going to weave until I get down about halfway into the center of the pendant. That'll run me just about out of wire. Just keep weaving. It's okay if it's a little bit loose. Mine's a little bit loose. Weave until you get to about the center of the pendant, or until you're just about out of wire. I got about an inch left, so this will be my last one right here. And I'll end it by making a 360 around this 18 gauge right here. And I can start some new wire. Okay, so it should look about like that. Check the front of your stone. It should be feeling pretty good. Not 100% secure yet because we're not done, but should be feeling pretty good right here. Out of weaving wire, I think I've made about 8 repeats here with the figure 8, and I'm about midway in the stone. I'm going to take a new piece of 28 gauge at 1.5 feet long, and I'll weave out this arm. I'll get another piece after that and weave out this arm. So let's get 1.5 feet of 28 gauge weaving wire. I've got a fresh piece of 28 gauge weaving wire at 16 inches long. I think 16 or 18, I might have said 18 inches, 1.5 feet. And I'm just going to anchor it right here where the last wire ended. The 18 gauge is the gauge on the outside, or on the inside here, I should say, and the 20 gauge is up here. So I'm going to anchor to the 18 gauge with 5 stitches, 5 coils. Then I'm going to come up and I'll do a coil around both of them. I'll do that twice, and then I'll do 5 more stitches and then 2 double coils and so on. And I'll do this for 7 repeats. So there's one. And each of these peaks is one of the repeats. So that's number 2. Then I'll go back to 5 single coils along the 18 gauge. So there goes 2. And right here, before I continue, I'm going to make a little loop with the 20 gauge wire, and then I'm going to reattach it to the 18 gauge wire. So I've made 2 repeats, and I'll just pause right there. Turn to the front. Make sure your stone and everything is still nicely shaped. You need to get a plier to help you turn these. These sometimes want to turn to their sides because it's round on round, so I like to just keep tapping them now and again. Keep them on top of the stone. And back here where I weaved 2, I'm going to take this 20 gauge wire. I'll just get this out to horizontal here. I'll take the 20 gauge wire, which is this one, put this so that your tip is pointed down, push all your little weave back, make sure this wire is kind of on the horizontal here, curved to the horizontal, and then we're going to take the 20 gauge, put the pad of your finger there, and your thumb right here at the end of the coil, we're just going to make a tiny little loop. Oop. Sorry for the camera. Just right over itself. Nice little discreet loop. You can get your round nose plier to help you. Once you get that loop, bring the 20 gauge right back next to the 18 so that we can continue our weaving. Like that. And the loop is just right there behind the coils. Okay? So there's 2 repeats. I'm on 5 singles, and with my 2 doubles, I'll go right here next to my loop. Go twice around, and then go back to 5 singles on the 18 gauge. Make sure that when they come back together, you've got a little space there so that you can get the weaving wire going on again. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Take your time, push it back, look to the front. Make sure that you've got a little space. Okay. Now I'll do 2 over 2, and I'll do 5 singles. And I'll go 2 over 2. I'll do 5 singles. Get your chain nose plier, help you do some gentle tapping. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 repeats, and I'll do 2 more. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Then 2 over 2, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, just like that. This is not attached here, so, don't worry about that for now. Just make sure that that loop is close and that everything is sitting nice and flat. Look to the front, make sure that that looks pretty good. Adjust the wires to be nice on your stone. This is the top of the pendant where these loops are and where these little flips are right here. I'm going to adjust mine, push them in a little bit. Okay, just keep it snug until it's all together. And now we'll repeat on this side. I'll get 18 inches of 28 gauge. I'll attach here and make the same 7 repeats, but after 2, I'll make the loop and then continue. Okay, so here's my fresh piece of 28 gauge. The 18 gauge is here, up here, and the 20 gauge is down here. Make sure that these 5 singles go on the 18 gauge, just like on this side. So I'll attach with a 1-inch leading tail right here. You can work with or without the stone in place still, but it's going to get, much tighter. You'll have to pop it out the front if you're going to pop it out. Okay, so I'll just attach and make 5 single coils along the 18 gauge. Then I'll coil over both of them, making sure that I have a little space between the frame wires so that I can continue on the 18 with 5 more single coils. It gets a little tight right here to push everything back, so carefully use your pliers if you need to help you push back your coils and your weave. And start to turn this to horizontal if you want to, just like that. I'm going to make my second repeat here. Make sure to maintain a little space. I'm going to do 5 single wraps along the 18. And then I'll pause right here and I'll make a loop. Now the loop goes towards the outside, up, back to the inside, and over. So the loop over here goes towards the outside, up, and you can use your plier, you can use your fingers just like we did the other side. Just right here at the edge of the last coil you made, put your thumb and the pad of your fingers so that you can swoop this over. Then you can get your round nose plier to help you complete that turn. Just like that. And then once you get that complete turn, work this wire back down to straight, horizontal I mean, and put it right next to the 18 gauge. Nice and flat. Make sure your stone is still snuggled up or snug inside there. It'll get tighter once we do more. Okay, so there I go. I'll come back over here and continue my weaving. And I'll start that with double coil around these two. If you need to take your pliers to make sure that loop is flat, just give it a little tap. Okay, so here goes 1 and 2. Making sure that the front has 2. And then come down into your 18 and do 5 singles. And then 2 doubles. I'll lead from this side so you can see. There's 2. me see what have I got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I do 2 more for 7 total. And 2, 3, 4, 5. Give everything a nice little love tap. All right, so let's look at the back. We just did our 7 repeats on both sides. We can go ahead and get rid of some of these wires down here. Let's make it a little visually better for us. So you can give a little pressure, a little tension, and do wide circles until it breaks, or you can use your cutter and cut them right there at the base of the stone. I'm just going to give tension and break them off. You know, don't pull your frame apart doing this. Got my thumb right there to give the pressure against the wire, and I'm just giving big circles until it breaks. I'll go ahead and get rid of this one too, just for the sake of it. See how it looks over here. Yeah, I can get rid of it. This one I think I'll just pull it way back here. Cut it. Tuck it, and that'll be a little cleaner looking for us. My wire got a little weird right there. That's okay. So long as it still looks great over here, and it does. Again, this is the top of the pendant. All right, so we want these 2 loops right here so that you can go to your chain. We want to take these 2 wires and weave enough so that we can curve down and come down to the bottom center. So once I have my 7 repeats, I'm going to hold it right here and hold that loop in place. Put your thumb on the front of the stone to give pressure, and just start a nice bend, nice curve down your stone to see how much more you got to weave. And I like to be about a millimeter or so off, you know, away from the frame. You just want to come until you cross the bottom center. So that's probably 3 more repeats to get me to there. And I'm doing it this way in case your stone is a little different in size. You can kind of gauge what you need here. So stay nice, stay flat, and continue to weave however many you need. I'm going to do 3 more repeats. And this is my last one. I'll end it with 5 single coils here. Get your plier to help you bend it back or push it back a little bit. Okay, so just nice and curved, and that should be bottom center. You might do 1 or 2 more than mine, depending on your stone. And I'll just leave that there for a second, and I'll do a repeat on this other side. So I'll hold the wires here at the shoulder blade to make sure my loop doesn't move. And I'll start to do a soft curve on my weaved wire so that it comes down along the side of the stone, alongside of the coil there. It just crosses here in the middle, bottom center. And now I'll go ahead and do 3 more repeats on this wire. All right. And I've got about 1.5 inches or so of weaving wire on both sides. I'll leave it there for now to make sure I've got enough. I might do 1 more, but maybe not because they're crossing pretty well. And you want to make sure that these are curved, you know, snug to the stone, but a little bit flared out here. So you have some pizzazz, so about like that. And then the bare wires cross right down here at bottom center. Okay? And you're just looking for an even amount on both sides. I want to make sure that everything is on the same plane. Nice and flat. And that's pretty good. All right, so now we're going to flip these 2 up onto themselves, right over each other. If you want to do, I might actually, I've got enough wire. It'll be kind of uncomfortable because it's short, but I want to do 1 more repeat. I could do them here. If you don't have enough wire, you don't have to do this last repeat, but I decided I'm going to go ahead and just do 1 more because I have enough wire and gets me just a little bit closer. I want a little bit more of a flared out look on the sides there. So if I have 1 more repeat, It'll just be a little more comfortable. Yeah, I think that's better. 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I'm just gonna give it a little more elegance right here. Flaring it out just a slight bit more. Do the same on this side. Just work gently and patiently. Make sure your loops up top stay. And that's pretty good. I love that. So right here, let's go ahead and get rid of these wire fragments of the 28 gauge. Just hold on to it and turn it until it breaks. Push my wires back. Okay, so make sure they crisscross bottom center, and we're just going to flip these right back over and up onto themselves. So everything's nice and flat. If you want to mark the center, you can. It's kind of like an upside down heart. I'm just going to eyeball where they crisscross right there. I'll take my plier and I'll just do a 90-degree bend on these two lower wires. Don't push, don't pull. Just do a 90-degree bend, just like we flip over our earring wires, and get them all the way over and back onto themselves here, just like that, with this point staying at the bottom center. You can use your fingers. You don't want to make it too tight just yet so that we can make adjustments. And then this one will flip to the front. So right here, don't push, don't pull. Just right beside where they cross. Use this to help you have a little pad to work on and just make a nice 90-degree bend. Work it over into a little more than 90. And then you can use your finger and just pinch it down. Just like that, so they crisscross right over that weave. Okay? Once you get them the way that you want them, then come down here and gently, squeeze things a little tighter. You don't need to kill it, just make gentle squeezes. All right, so from right here, now we're just going to hold this tip. The wires are side by side. Just make a nice gentle curve outward. Hold the tip, make a nice curve, get some elegance in there. Then you'll work one wire at a time to the back side of the pendant here. So I'm holding the tip. I'm making sure first, make sure everything is nice. The stone is sitting nice. Hold the tip, and you can use one wire at a time. We're going to come back slightly below this curve. So I'm just going to follow the shape of my pendant. I'm using my finger to help me make a little bit of a curve right there at the shoulder. And I'm going to just come straight across first, okay? Just like that. To get that little flare. You pull in a little bit, get it a little bit closer. And then when it's there, where you want it, you just want to hold it right here and follow the inside line. Bring it straight down. So right here, I'm going to hold on to the curve I like with the weave right below it, and I'm just going to make a bend straight down, just like that. And we can make adjustments later, okay? Just like that. And we'll do the same on this opposite side here. Hold on to the tip, Take your 18 gauge. You can use your finger to help you make this curve, and just bring the wire straight across the back, right about where the top shoulder happens. You can use your thumb to lift that curve a little bit, straight across until you love it. They don't have to be perfectly the same. It'll still be super beautiful. And when you get it there and the way you want it, hold that and then just turn the wire, follow that weaved one, turn the wire straight down the bottom of the pendant. Just like that. I have one a little shorter than the other. It's okay. Okay, and then we're going to repeat with the 20 gauge, but you'll come slightly below, yet again, the curve here. So it's kind of like a little bit of a tapering or a scalloping down the side. So hold the tip, take the 20 gauge, bend it to the back, straight across to begin with. Look to see that you love that curve. And see, we can still move them in and out. So just that you love that little curve, and when you do, hold on to it right there at the shoulder and just follow it straight down. Just like that. Okay? And then do the same with the opposite side. Hold everything down here. You can use your finger right here, or you can just curve the wire. Get it slightly below the previous one. And then when you love it, hold on to it back here and just curve it straight down. Woo! Kind of a little tight on these. It's okay. I'll pull them closer together. Okay? And then make sure that you love the flaring there. That's nice. We've got two very short ones, and we've got two that are a little bit longer. Mine are a little bit off, and that's okay. Make sure that your stone and everything looks nice, that everything is sitting nice and flat. It's totally beautiful. We're going to just turn these two inside short ones into little loops in the back. So I'll cut this one and I'll even it up with this side. That's the outside 20 gauge right here. Okay, and I'll just hold it right there, and I'll use my round nose plier. Oh, I'm just going to make a nice little curl to the back right there to end that wire. Just like that. Okay? These two will wrap around the front, the two longer ones. This one I barely got enough, but I'll have enough. So you might want to start, if you're watching this ahead, maybe go 13 inches of wire. If you want a little more room than this. This is really cutting it down to the exact, okay? So let me curl my other one here. Holding all my nice curves. I'm going to take this tip and just make a tiny little turn and end it on the back of my stone there. Okay. And that's beautiful. We have yet to tie all that together, so don't worry. All right. And then, so obviously these two are going to dive through here and just do one wrap and end. This one's really cutting it close, but it'll be enough. But before we do, let's leave them open and weave these together while it's open and easy for you. So let's get 1.5 feet of 28 gauge weaving wire. So that's 18 inches. And you can just anchor, by going underneath all 4 of them here. I'll pull out a couple of inches for the lead. So here's where I'll start my weaving. You don't want to pull these too close because then you'll close up your spaces. You pull them a little bit, but you want to make sure that you don't close up your little cute flares. So there's a 360. I'm just holding on to this fragment. Then I'll come over. Whoop. This is just a 1/1 weave. I'll do a 360 on this center 18. I'm going to stretch across the middle. I'll do a 360 on this wire, and I'll pull a little bit, but not so much that, you know, I take them out of shape. Then I'll stretch over, and I'll grab my 4th wire here around that loop. So there's one complete stitch all the way across those wires. Okay, my next one, I'm just going to skirt underneath all of them, including the one that touches the back of the stone. So after I get one stitch across all of them, I'm going to get the end of it, and I'm going to come between my stone and all the wire. So it's like just one straight stretch to the other side. You can go where it's a little bit bare. Let me help you make it easier. When you bring this loop down, make sure to catch, you know, this guy. Make sure it goes in there so you get all 4 wires. Just like that. Come back inside this little curve. I went all the way out, so come back inside that little curve, and then make single stitches all the way across again. You can treat these two like one if you want to. So there goes a 360. I'll stretch across, do a 360 on this one, stretch across, get that curved wire. I think I missed mine on this one, but that's okay. Okay. And then when you go all the way back, go underneath all of them, between the stone and beneath all of them. Ooh, there we go. And that's pretty good. That should hold those down and in place. If you feel like you need to do another stitch or two, you've got a couple of inches up here. I wouldn't go further down because then it becomes visible. But you've got these, you know, this one here, and you can do a couple more loops around the shoulder. I would just go around the big loops and not the little ones. Oops, excuse me. Do that a couple of times right there. Okay, to help cinch that up a little bit. And when you're ready to end it, just wrap it around a single frame wire right there a couple of times. And then that's it for this short fragment. Break it off, just like that. Okay, so we can't see the weave, and that looks pretty good. I like to leave that wire on just in case I need it later on to tie on another wire. If you're done with it, we can break this wire off. Okay, so that looks pretty good. I've got my cute flares here that didn't go anywhere. And now I'll just break this wire off. I can be done with it. I'll cut it way down here. Put your pendant down on the mat and settle everything. Gently push everything. Make sure that those two coiled wires remain nicely on the shoulders of your stone. And with these two last wires here, hold everything, make sure it's all together nicely. We still got another wire to do an add-on. We're just going to split these two, one to the right of the point and one to the left. I barely got enough on this one. And we're going to do a 360, and it doesn't need to be a 360, it needs to just come over and with enough to curve around. So thank goodness I have just enough. Take this one, going to do a complete loop over all these wires right here, making sure you're flat on the back. You don't need to kill it, but just turn it over all those wires so that it hooks back on itself like that. And with this one you'll do the same. I'm going to cut it a little bit shorter, but before I do, I'm going to just turn it up. Make sure you don't scratch the front of your stone. Cut it, leaving like 3, maybe 2, I would go 3 millimeter. And then bring it all the way over to the inside. You basically just want to bring it back down on itself to make that little hook. Okay, that looks pretty good. One wire to add, you guys, and then we'll be done. And you know, you could keep going. You could add more. You could add a little gemstone in there. We're going to put a little bead ball in there. But make sure that all of this looks good. There's plenty of places to add wire onto here. Make sure that your loops are nice and, you know, to the sides here. So give them a little tap. Everything should be nice and flat. And I'm going to go ahead and take another piece of 20 gauge frame wire. And you can do this with half round wire also if you wanted to, but I'm just going to use 20 gauge round. And I'll take 8 inches of 20 gauge round wire as an accent wire. I want to bring one more wire down the front. There's a perfect spot underneath the stone right here to add a wire. I'm going to spin my stone a little bit. Okay, there's a perfect spot right there. So I've got my 8 inches of 20 gauge. The pin I want to make, you know, I want to straddle these two wires. So just visually curve this wire, bend this wire in half so that that opening, that space, it's probably about 3 millimeter, maybe 4, but make it fit in there nicely, just like that. So it just comes to the back like this. Okay, so you can't really see it. And I want to flip it over the front and bring it down the insides. So I'm going to make sure that it's seated all the way up. It's okay if you see it a little bit, but if you can get it up back there behind everything so you don't see it here, hold it all together and pull up. I like to start to pinch them together a little bit here. So holding everything, I'll get the plier, do a little pinch right here and tighten it all up. Just like that. Nice and clean. Make sure it's laying down nice and flat. And we're going to flip these over, you know, one to each side, but before I do, I'm going to go ahead and stitch my frame down. So I'll grab that fragment I took off from these weaving wires. If you watch ahead, you could probably leave this on. I just feel like sometimes when I leave all the wires on, it gets a little confusing. So I'm just going to reattach by putting this 28 gauge into the space there behind these two. I'll do a couple of wraps just to make it comfortable. And then I'll wrap it into the frame by wrapping it a few times around these two guys. Okay? So there's one, there's two, just to get them together. And now I'm going to pass all the way under both of these shoulder wings, the 18 gauges. Ooh. Oh, I think I missed it. It's a little bit hard to get in there, but you can do it because it's still open. You just want to make sure to get this new wire attached to the main frame. So I went underneath the two 18 gauge shoulder curves, and I'm going to do that a couple of times to make sure this wire is really attached to the frame. Just nice and clean, tight coils. One goes to one side, one goes to the other side. Just like that. I think I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to wrap these two a couple of times, and then I'll jump over and do the same on the opposite side. So just those two, and then I'll figure eight over to the opposite side. This will just make everything a little more sturdy in the back. And we'll just do a couple of figure eights between here, making sure to catch that shoulder wire so that this add-on is very secure on the frame. Okay, so I wrap twice there. I'm going to figure eight by jumping over here and going under these two. Whoop. Don't get caught up in the other one. Okay. And I'll wrap these two a couple of times. All right, that's pretty good. It's pretty clean. And it looks clean in the front. Okay, so these two, we're going to come down right here. You could also come down to the outside if you want to. You could do this with two wires and have one on each if you want to. Okay, once it's nicely attached, I'm just going to make a clean bend up here. And I'm going to get to the inside. I'll start with the right-hand side wire. Get real tight over the top of that stone. And then I'll do the same with the opposite one. Just come over here and get real tight over the top of the stone and slant the wire out. Okay. Shape it right up against that coil with your thumb and your finger. Be flat on the stone to the inside of the coil and actually against the stone just crisscross down there. Do the same with the opposite one, but before you do, the crevice that's right in between them, we're going to dive this wire in there to secure it. So just eyeball that space. Once you get your curve, pull it out and make a real long curve. Get the tip of it in between those two back wires, right there. Push a little, pull a little, ease it through, straighten out the leading wire. Get that curve back down on your stone the way you want it, nice and against that edge. And once you get it there, just pull straight up, so that it grabs the bottom of your stone there, right there in the middle. Just turn it up. Straight up the back even. I wouldn't go straight up because then it gets bulky. Go to the side of these two center wires a little bit. Just right there. Okay, and then you'll do the same with the opposite side. Don't tie anything off. You want to make sure not to pull too tight because then it pulls this wire into the front there. That looks pretty good. So now we'll do this side. Make sure everything's nice and flat. Just shape it to the body of your stone here. And once you get it shaped, pull it out, make a long bend at the end, stick it through those two wires. Pull a little, push a little, straighten out your leading wire. Get into position up here on the top. Make sure it comes all the way through and against the stone. And then just work it. The other wire is there and in the way, so just work it straight up, nice and tight, until they sit side by side like that. Then you can use your fingers and your thumb. Just kind of push back those wires so that it sits nicely on the stone. And then these two, you can just work them straight up the back. We don't need them unless you want to do another little something something with them. There's not much, so I'm just going to terminate them. I've got my two 28 gauges still living here. A nice spot to get rid of them is either to curl them and land them right there, or you can tie them up if you're going to use them up top again. Okay, so if you're going to use them up top, straighten them out anyway so that they're nice. And I would come right to the side of the two center ones so that there's not so much bulk. You can bring them up here even. And then do another little something something curl with them there. Or bring them back down here. Maybe we'll do that. I'll add one more layer. I'll hammer those out and just bring them into that space right there. Why not? Okay, so once they're bent back here like this, you still have this 28 gauge. Go ahead and stitch, these two onto the frame. And you can do that just by making a few coils around that wire and then that outside shoulder right there. So right there. I think I'm just going to make 3 or 4 of them. Whoop. This is a really nice framing technique. It's unique, it's different. It lets you have a bale-less pendant, and you can adapt this in a lot of ways. This could be even set up so that you can dangle something from below it. All I'm doing is wrapping this wire onto the curved shoulder a few times. I made about 5 of those, and then I'll just wrap 3 times around the single wire just to get it stable. And then I'll do the same with this one. Let me break this off. I'll do the same with this one here. I'll secure it by going 3 or 4 times into the shoulder wire. I'll end it by doing a couple of single wraps around that guy. And then I'll break the wire off. Okay? Very clean, very pretty backside. And now I have these 2 wires up here that if you don't want them, you know, cut them and just make a little loop and turn it off. But otherwise, I'm going to straighten them up here. I'm going to bring them to the sides maybe and hammer them. So make sure everything is nice and that your wires are laying against the stone the way you want. Put your pendant down, settle everything. Make sure that you've got a nice little line there. Everything's nice and flat. And then if you want to measure, you can measure. But otherwise, I like to just pre-bend them and then bend them back out. So I'm going to take a nice little bend right here over the ear and get tucked in there. Make sure all this is nice and straight. And all I'm going to do is curve the wire right here for that little gap. If I don't want it, I can still cut it off. So if I don't want to hammer it, I got just enough to dive in there and wrap around that wire. Maybe we'll do that actually. I like that idea better, than we won't hammer in this lesson. So just shape that back over that ear. You could even coil that if you wanted to for texture. You could add some beads to it if you want to. I'm just going to shape it along that open line, and then down here I'm going to bend the very tip. I barely got enough on this side, but I got enough. And I'm going to dive into the center just like I did my last pass. Get back into that space I want. Oh, I missed it. Just make sure that little tip goes through the middle. Before you tie it, make sure that the wire is shaped and looks nice as it's laying down. Hold it into place. I barely got enough, but I got enough. I'm just going to wrap around this bar one time. It doesn't need to be 360. It just needs to come back at itself and lock down. So I'm going to cut it with a couple of millimeter like we do, and I'm just turning it right over that bar. Okay? Can't even be seen in the front here. So here comes the wire down. That's very pretty. Just like that for another layer. And I'll do the same with this side. Make the wire nice first. And just come down between these ears, nice and soft. Make it curve around that space until you love it. Make sure it lays nice and fairly flat on the opposite side of the coil. And then right here at the bottom, take the tip, bend it, stick it through that space so that you can grab it and tie it around that wire. Just make sure before you lock it down that the wire is coming down nicely, and it is. So just like that. Make sure you can see your beautiful coil work there. And then when you get it just so, you can end it by wrapping around that bar. I'm going to cut it so that I have just a couple of millimeters, enough to wrap it back down on itself so that it points back at itself. Just like that. And then you can't see it in the front. Woo! Look how gorgeous that is, you guys. Just enough space there for a little bead ball if you want one. And let's add one. We'll just go ahead and lay your pendant down on your mat and gently push everything down. So we'll center it here. It looks gorgeous. And we'll just gently pat everything down. Make sure the wires are laying down nicely to either side. Lots of opportunity for more beautiful wire work in here if you wanted. You know, you could add another wire in there and bring it wings out. You know, whatever you want to do. It's a really unique piece. Okay, so I'm going to put, I think I'm going to go with a smaller one. I'm going to use a 3mm copper bead. I might just use one this time, but you could certainly add 3. There's space enough. So I'll put it there. I'll get a piece of, I like to tie these on with 22 gauge half round, but you could use the 28 gauge we've been using. I just like the half round, 22 half round, because it's a little sturdier. Plus my copper beads, the holes are a little bit bigger, so it fills it a little bit better. Okay, so I'll center the ball on the wire, get it made kind of into a little pin. Same as the other one, you can straddle those 2 wires in the center. Just work this down until you get a nice lay on that ball. So I just came to the outsides of those 2 wires, and then now I'll do a couple of wraps and that'll be it. I'll put the chain on and then we'll call it a day, you guys, and enjoy our gorgeous work. So I'll go once around that leg with my 22 half round. This is just about 3 or 4 inches of it. I'll go twice. It's a nice tie. I'll cut it off. Tap the end down. Take the other half of the 22 half or 28 and make a few wraps here and tie the ball on. With a couple of wraps, slip it and tap the end, and it's so lovely. I think I got a little bubble there, but that's okay. Just tap it down. Okay, you guys, look how beautiful that turned out. I hope you love Claudia. I hope you really loved making Claudia today. I'm going to go ahead and add my chain and my jump rings and celebrate my beautiful pendant. All right, so now I'm going to get a couple of 4 jump rings. They're 22 gauge. I'll open them up. I've got them on 1.5mm Rolo chain. And I'll just close up my jump ring here. with my chain attached. I'll do the other side. Open up your 4mm 22 gauge jump ring. Slip your pendant on there. Close it up. Give it a little hardening tap if you need to. And that's it, you guys. Woo! How absolutely fun and beautiful is that? This is Claudia, and I really hope you enjoy making her. This is a bale-less way to make a pendant, and it's just so lovely. Delicate and feminine. Just very beautiful on this pink rhodochrosite stone. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. I enjoyed making it with you. Please give me a thumbs up if you like this project or want to see more projects like this. And please leave me a comment, let me know how you feel. And if you make one, please look me up on social media and tag me with your beautiful work so I can see your gorgeous creation. All right, I'm going to clean this up and I'll show us the end result. Thanks, you guys. Much love. Have a great day making Claudia. Woo! Here she is. Oh my gosh. Check out how gorgeous this pendant turned out. She's beautiful. This is Claudia. And all I've done is just cleaned her up, polished her out. I didn't patina this copper. I left it natural. Woo! I've got a little bit of polishing agent still to buff out, but wow, didn't that just turn out gorgeous. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoyed this. Much love. Thanks for being here with me, and I will see you soon again for the next one. Take care.